This video is sponsored by Everand. More on that in a bit. It's been forever and a day since I last made a book recommendation video, but since we're about entering the time of the year where those of you who are watching are returning to school in some capacity, whether high school, college, grad school, or in some cases, maybe not as a student, but as a teacher instead, I figured what better way to get you into the spirit of wanting to dive straight into the halls of higher education than to give a 5-book recommendation that range from supernatural to sinister to slightly fun, but with all shades of someone is dead, and whoever said that walking the halls of knowledge doesn't come at a steep price has simply not discovered where the bodies are buried. I mean, if some of us are heading back to school in pursuit of knowledge, why can't some of that knowledge involve discovering exactly who is responsible for the dead body that greets us on our very first day? So, for those who need that bit of chill to start off a new school year, here are 5 murder mysteries to get you going, starting with number 1. Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Iyimide, which should come as no surprise to anyone really, because Ace of Spades is absolute perfection. Set within an ultra-elite, mostly all-white high school, Nevius Private Academy, our main characters, Devon and Chiamaka, have to navigate their place and space within the school, whilst holding secrets that could ruin them, secrets that an anonymous individual known only as Aces seems to be very, very familiar with and seems personally invested in bringing to light. There's mysteries about the present day, mysteries about the past, and it all ties back to the Aces. What exactly this anonymous entity wants with Chiamaka and Devon, why they're so obsessed with bringing them down, and at what point they believe they would have taken all that Chiamaka and Devon have to give. So if you're someone for whom going back to school was a struggle, filled with the terror of others discovering that the typical everyday life and experience you had painted for them as what life is like for you outside of school is all a lie, then maybe this might be a book that resonates with you to a smaller degree, without the actual Aces threatening and following through on spilling your secrets for the rest of the world to see, of course. Just a heads up though, for those who might have missed it, but this book leans heavily into black trauma and pain. Like, Devon could just not catch a break. It's a bit of a minor spoiler, but I felt it necessary to mention for those who might want a more light-hearted read and think that this book is it, because it was marketed as being a confluence of Gossip Girl and Get Out. It is more Get Out with sprinkles of Gossip Girl, so none of the levity you might have been hoping for. For levity, I will direct you to the second book on the list, but before I get into that, a quick word on our sponsor of today's video, Everand, which is an amazing repository of books, both ebooks and audiobooks, that you can access at a monthly subscription fee that gives you not 1, not 2, but 3 books at a cost that is way cheaper than its well-known competitor whose name rhymes with touchable and whose subscription only gives you access to 1 book. Your Everand subscription also grants you access to both Scribd and SlideShare, which offer you a database of documents and presentations at your fingertips. So really, whatever the case, Everand's got you. And you know what else Everand's got? All the 5 books I am recommending you to read for a killer school year, all on audiobook, which makes it easier for you to pack whilst reading. It's a win-win. So get yourself an Everand subscription and please make sure to use my link when you do so. I have it linked in the description bar. This way you get to have access to amazing books and help support my channel at the same time as I do get a little commission if you use my link. And whilst you're at it, don't forget to use your Fable app to track your reading, as Fables recently joined the Everand family. And with that said, go start reading Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Iyimide right now on Everand. Or like I said, if you want something a bit on the lighter side, consider turning to the second book on the list, A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. What can I say? I am a sucker for Sherlock Holmes. My days in the British Council Library, that was in my city back when I was a kid, was spent browsing the shelves for books to take home and VHS tapes of the old Sherlock Holmes series of films I was obsessed with rewatching over and over again. And when I was done with my selection, choosing magazines to pore over, also whilst waiting for my mom to be done with her errands and come pick me up. I love every single version of Sherlock Holmes that I've been given. Yes, even the ones that people hate. Benedict Cumberbatch and Robert Downey Jr.'s version inclusive. I also really love the touch we got with Johnny Lee Miller's Holmes in Elementary with a gender-bent Watson played by the love of my life, Lucy Liu. A study in Charlotte, however, takes things even further. It's a modern interpretation of the Sherlock Holmes saga that takes place at Sherringford, a prep school in Connecticut that ouses Charlotte Holmes. Yes, you heard that right. This story's Holmes is a teenage girl, the great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter of Sherlock Holmes, who inherited his brilliance, his loner temperament, and his volatile temper, and who has to work together with Jamie Watson. Yes, Jamie is also related to the John Watson, and he would rather stay far away from Charlotte because, remember, volatile temperament. But they have a dead classmate, and someone seems hell-bent on framing them both for the murder, which means that a team up between Holmes and Watson is once again in order. Like I said, if you want a more lighter, someone's dead and the killer's gone in for you story, then A Study in Charlotte might just be the book for you. And just as with Ace of Spades, it's also available via audiobook on Everand. But then maybe you like your murder mystery whodunit stories with more of a supernatural paranormal bent to it, with a sprinkle of ghosts and gods. If you haven't yet read Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas, I honestly don't know what to say to you right now. You need to rectify that with a quickness. For some people, going back to school is being tossed right back in the midst of classmates who maybe don't get you, or maybe are about to be introduced to the changes you went through in the past summer. And that can be a terrifying thought. And that is something that Yadril is quite familiar with as our lead character in Cemetery Boys. Because you see, Yadril is determined to prove to his magical family that he's a real brujo, a situation that has proven quite difficult as they still have problems accepting his identity as a trans man and subconsciously believe that it would affect how his magic manifests. To prove them wrong, therefore, Yadril decides to do the one thing that no one in his family would be able to argue with. He intends to summon the ghost of his murdered cousin to find out who is responsible for his death and ultimately set him free. The problem, however, is that the ghost he summons instead is the school's resident bad boy, Julian Diaz. Julian, who is mouthy and prickly, but also soft and accepting of every single part of Yadril in a way that would make you swoon in the best of ways, and who is determined to have Yadril help him solve the mystery of his own death. And Cemetery Boys is a masterpiece in heart and the simplicity of creating our own families who accept us and being constantly vocal about the hurts that those who love us wreak on her so that they in turn can do better by us. And it is so good. Is it predictable? Yes. Did I see a lot of the twists coming? Yes. Did I have an absolute blast? Yes. Am I looking forward to book 2 coming out September 1st next year? Absolutely. Oh, and for those who might be concerned that book 1 ends on a cliffhanger, it does not. You are all good. And now for the 4th recommendation, I step away from the world of young adult murder mysteries and into adult territory that would be particularly delightful in as much as pain is delightful to those who love open-ended stories and like to take succor in fan fiction to answer unanswered questions of what happened when a certain character was in jail and this other character couldn't visit. Yes, people, the 4th book on the list is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. For those of you who, like me, are Shakespeare's nuts and maybe took the occasional drama class and would like to dive into a world with characters who are actors to the point that they have no idea when reality starts to blend into their performance, leading to a murder that would have everyone on the hook as the perpetrator if they don't give their all into convincing the police, their classmates, and even themselves that they are innocent. If you were or are a theater kid heading back to school, then this is the book for you. Just make sure you know how to draw the line between reality and the stage, though, because things can go real south if you don't course correct immediately. And finally, the last book on the list for a killer year is The September Society by Charles Finch. And before you say anything, I know I know this is the second book in the Charles Lennox mysteries, but just as with most mysteries, you don't have to read it in order. Plus, I do think that the September Society is a way more interesting story than A Beautiful Blue Death, and most importantly, it takes place within the halls of the University of Oxford in the Victorian era. I mean, what is not to love? The September Society follows amateur sleuth Charles Lennox, who, after receiving a visit from Lady Annabel, who is worried because her son George seems to have vanished from his room at the University of Oxford, decides to pay his alma mater a visit, where he proceeds to find a card with the words "The September Society" on it, and yet another student who is died and might possibly have been the next victim of said society. It's a pretty cozy read that would fill you with the immensity of Charles's, and yes, I am referring to both the character and the author's love for Oxford. And I really do mean that. Charles Lennox refuses to shut up about it and is quite invested in solving the mystery, as it is impinging on the quiet, calm, sedate, peaceful and beautiful environment that was Oxford before all these messy murders complicated things. And I absolutely love it. Also, because a lot of the murder mysteries set in English universities tend to focus more on Cambridge University and its secret societies. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that there aren't any murder mysteries set within the University of Oxford, just that compared to the ones set in Cambridge, Oxford's a bit on the smaller side, which is yet another reason why I adore this. It feels like I am rooting for the underdog, which is most likely the only time I will ever use Oxford and underdog in the same sentence in my entire life. But tell me, have you read any of the books I've mentioned? If yes, would you mind dropping their names in the comments? If no, did any of the books I mentioned capture your fancy? Do you see yourself potentially reading them in the future? Do drop your response in the comments. Like this video if you've watched this far and haven't done so yet. Share this if you want. Support me on Patreon if you can. If you cannot, however, do consider checking out my other channels linked in the description bar. One of them is my gaming channel and the other holds my ASMR content, if any of them sounds like something you might enjoy. Whichever the case may be, however, I will see you on Monday with a new video. Until then, do remember, obsessing over the things you love, perfectly valid coping mechanism.